In a second, we adopt those minutes as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The items of the next part of the agenda are the appointments of boards and commission. The first one are three appointments to Cultural Arts Commission. Mr. Gion.
Next meeting, please.
All right, Ms. Jenkins.
Next meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Shell, next meeting. Mr. Corretco under I skipped Mr. Jones again. Keep Newton Beautiful.
Oh, sorry, I'll wake up here in a minute. Next meeting, please.
All right, thank you. Mr. Corretco.
I'd like to renominate Ms. Brenda Jessel, please.
All right.
Second.
Motion and a second. We renominate Brenda Jessel to the Keep Newton Beautiful Commission. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Mr. Shell is not here, so the next agenda, please. The next agenda for mine on the Parks Commission and Tree Commission, Mr. Corretco.
Next agenda, please.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a recommendation from the Convention Center the Convention Center Authority regarding the feasibility study for moving the Convention Center downtown. Mr. Avery, how are you this evening?
Good afternoon, council members. How are y'all?
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
In answer
Sorry,
to
before
a
you begin,
request,
You have a letter from Mr. Avery at your seat. Okay.
Right.
Sure. All right. Thank you.
yeah, we have decided as a authority to recommend the hiring of Hunden Partners to execute a study to determine the viability of moving the Noonan Center to the property at 57 East Broad Street. The study will include imaging a new facility, land use, sizing, management of space, conference and hotel demand, parking, and economic impact. The cost of the study is $58,800. It will take, according to the partner here, 12 weeks or so. They will be in Noonan for quite a while doing some field work. We interviewed three proposed partners in this study and chose Hunden. They had some experience in Noonan, and we felt very comfortable with them giving us some good detail. Any questions?
Question from council?
I have a quick question. In addition to the $58,800, it says additional potential costs up to $50,000. Could you?
Yeah, if the city decides to go forward with the project, they are available for additional services. Whether we're contracted with them or not, it depends on that in that time. So you're not obligating yourself to anything additional.
Anyone else?
Make a motion that we approve the
Second.
recommendation.
The motion and a second. We
I think
approve.
the city manager has something to say.
I'd like a clarification here.
Yes.
That motion is also to fund the study. I don't know if that was perfectly clear in the request, but.
Yeah, we're asking the city to pay for it.
Yes.
The contract will be held with the Convention Center Authority, but they're asking.
Yeah, what we envision is authoring the study. The study will come to the authority, and the authority will make a recommendation back to the city.
Mr. Phillips, we appreciate that clarification. We also understood that if Mr. Avery had the money, he wouldn't be here.
That's true.
Want to
Thank you.
clarify?
We appreciate that very much. That is part of your motion.
Yes, it is.
That's my second.
Okay, all right. Motion and second to fund and to approve the project that brought forward on the paper, the letter from the Convention Authority. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda, Mr. Phillips, do you have anything this
I
evening?
do not, Mayor. Council.
Okay, I don't have anything this evening. Under new business, the first item is a public hearing. This is an alcohol application for the Noonan Convention Center Authority, DBA Noonan Center. The reason for this is personnel change. And I'll open a public hearing at this time and ask if there's anyone here who'd like to speak to the issue. Seeing no one come forward, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. Is anyone here representing the authority? Good to see you this evening. Thank you for being here. All right, I'll close the public hearing, and as I did, and ask for a motion on the issue.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We approve the application as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next is also a public hearing. I'll open a public hearing at this time. This is an application for an alcohol beverage license, Go Juju LLC, retail on-premise pouring sales of distilled spirits, malt beverages, and wine. The address is 311 Bullsboro Drive, and the reason is the addition of distilled spirits. Is there anyone here representing? Good, I thank you for being here tonight. Anyone has any comment on this application? This is a public hearing. Close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion on the issue.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Is there a motion and a second? Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next item, Mr. Phillips, you've got this, I believe, the consideration of extension for distilled spirits package store license of 459 Millard Farmer Industrial.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor. You may recall, in October of 2022, this body granted a 9-month extension, which expired on July the 11th. So we're here to seek another extension. Would like to ask the applicant to come forward if he could, maybe give us a time frame as to how much time he thinks he's need. You can see the pictures up on the board. This is about a week old. The building is now wrapped. We're making some interior progress. So yeah, as you can see, site work, curbing, they're making some good progress. So I would certainly recommend an extension, but before I recommend a time frame, I would like to hear from the applicant themselves to see how much time they think they may need.
Certainly. Sir, if you'll come forward and state your name for the record.
Manny Singh.
Thank you.
We've had some delays because of we started in November, the construction, but right in December, we had some site work with extra dirt issues, and then the rain just killed us for 4 or 5 months. We just couldn't move the dirt and couldn't take it out of there, and that's the reason we've had a delay. If possible, we'd like to get a 4-month extension at least.
Okay, until which date certain? Is there a date out there? We need a date certain. And I appreciate your comments. I live in that area, and I saw that mud
Yeah.
on a weekly basis.
It was a big mess, yeah.
You couldn't move
Move it,
equipment.
yeah.
Couldn't do anything.
We're looking
Sure.
for a good date certain then.
4 months is there, but you give
To coincide with one of our meetings, hopefully.
Yeah, the 4 months goes to November the 21st, roughly, council meeting.
Okay.
That is the holiday. I don't know if we want to get him through the holiday, maybe. I mean,
When's the
Okay,
meeting in
well-
December?
we only have one meeting. Usually the
probably December the 12th.
December
So-
12 is our meeting. In December, would council consider a December 12th?
I would, because this is using the language 4-month at least, so maybe an extension to add the at least in there.
That's fine. 5 is good.
We're trying to make it hit on our meeting date. So is there a motion?
Sure. I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll
December
second it.
12th?
December
Okay.
12th.
An extension then for the distilled spirits package store license of 459 Miller Farmer Industrial until December the 12th, 2023. Are there any questions,
And
discussion?
as long as the applicant knows, I believe that meeting is at 6:30.
All right.
There's only one meeting.
That's fine.
Any other questions, comments? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item, Ms. Donovan, how are you? This is a public hearing on the 2023 update to the capital improvements element, including 2023 update on short-term work program. How are you this evening?
Doing well, thank you. Each year, we have to amend our capital improvement element. It allows us to continue charging impact fees. As part of that process, we have to conduct a public hearing. That's why we're here tonight. There's no additional action needed tonight beyond the public hearing. We'll be bringing it back for transmittal at a future meeting.
All right, thank you. Okay, so no action needed on that particular item. The next item on the agenda is a proposal for public requested road races, runs, walks, and similar events. Chief, how are you?
Good, Mr.
Good.
Mayor, Council, thank you for a few minutes of your time tonight.
No problem, thank you.
Let me start off by just saying that it takes a special person in today's climate to be a police officer. There's a lot that they deal with each and every day. And unfortunately, in our profession nowadays, we lead the country in 3 areas that we don't want to lead in. And that's suicide, It's divorce, and it's life expectancy. So it's an area in our world, we don't want to lead in that area. But in doing all that, we do studies that we determine that the mental aspect of officers and how they handle things and what they do day to day is very important to them. And part of that is their families and their, the time they get to spend with their wives, their spouses, their children, and so forth, and so on. And I'm going to get in, that'll kind of lead into this proposal we're talking of, because we do have a lot of events in the city that we do, and it does have an impact on our officers at times. So this is about routes, fees, public road race runs, walks, similar events that we have.
Come on.
Showing your age.
There you go. Just moving.
So in the city, we have city events and private events that we have, and some of those city events, examples would be the Christmas parade. The private event would be Junior Service League, the run that they do. And we average annually around 36 to 40 events that are put on, and that's including all those city and private events. We've been as high as 44. It has dropped a little bit when we had COVID and a tornado, but we have those events. Around 13 or so take about 12 officers to work, and around 9 take 20 or more. We currently have 4 parades, and all of that includes run, walks, road races, bike events, and so forth. So in your packet, in the paperwork, you'll see 5 routes that we'll talk about tonight. This is going to kind of go in reverse order, 5 to 1. The suggestion before the council, these are all routes that we currently use, all but one, and I'll explain that one at the end. Currently, the Junior Service League and Run for Angels use this run. It's a 5K and a 10K. It takes about 4 hours for us to put it on. It takes around 21 officers to do this, and there is a fee proposed for consideration. The council sees fit. How we came up with that fee is reaching out to other local agencies, local cities, surrounding cities, and getting their feedback, and if they charge, if they don't charge, if they have fees applicable. And honestly, they charge anywhere between $40 to $70 an hour per officer that they need on their events, and they have other fees that may go in there, whether it's a registration paperwork fee or other fees that they do. What we looked at is how long an event was, what the impact was, the areas, the street closures and so forth, that it would have an impact on the city, and came up with a number to propose to you. That number right there, if you averaged it out, that would be about a $35 an hour fee just on the officers. That's not counting any firefighter personnel we may use or any other city staff that may be needed. That's just how we came up with a number just to present to you. But this is one of the routes, and we currently use this route. Both of them do. And let me preface, we want everybody to have their events. I'm not here before you saying we want somebody not, we support the community, we want to be a part of it, we want them to have their events. But this is one of the routes that we use, making you go forward. This is another route. This route actually uses the north side, going from the square north up through Temple Clark up to Sherwood Drive. This is done by, we use Sunrise on the Square and Run for the Orphans. 5K is there. Number of officers went up, but the hours went down. In the area and the road areas for the traffic and so forth, that fee was at $2,500. Next one, Meg. This currently is used by Cares, excuse me. It's a 5K route. It does take 21 officers. It starts up at the square, leaves and goes down. This route, once it goes south, past and down by the square near the park, we can open the square back up. That's not a route that closes the square for a long period of time. And then it ends back at the park, south of the city. Next one. This one we used last year. It went very well. I Sweat Red uses it. It's a 5K route. It goes out and went out McIntosh Parkway and comes back. It takes less officers to run that event. The 3 hours, same thing for a 5K, but the proposed fee would be lower on that. And the other option we don't use currently would be the link. We have been on it and did 2 sections of it, measured it out. It's not certified, it could be. But if you left from the Field Street area and went out the direction of Grayson Trail towards McIntosh Parkway and came back, that could be a section used for a 5K, or you could go out by Noonan Crossing and head towards the interstate. There's a section there that could be a 5K. That route actually would only take 2 or 3 officers, either one of those routes, to actually do that event on a weekend. So, next one, Megan. And then currently we have our parade list. We do all 4 of these parades now. The MLK July 4th, Homecoming, and Christmas Parade. The discussion here is, it is an impact. It is an impact to call in 22 officers on a weekend off. That's a large number of our department coming in. We want folks to have their events, but a consideration to pick routes if possible, say these routes are the routes we'll use. These are routes we currently use right now. And then possibly put a limitation or a maximum amount of how many times we want to use those routes per year. A suggestion could be 2 per route. Maybe the link you offer more times throughout the year. But the impact of that and what we have to do week in, week out definitely affects the department and the parade list. We would recommend we continue with those parades that are there. So the idea is to come up with a list of routes, and those are the routes that we offer that we use. And we know we can be safe. We've shown that historically. The events go very well. We keep our community safe. We keep the roadways safe. We've done those events very, very successfully year in, year out. But that's what we're proposing to you today.
Any questions of the chief?
I do. In your summary page in the beginning, you said you have 13 that require 12 officers, 9 that require 20 or more. I was just kind of curious as to which, because I know you chose a couple to show the Junior Service League and Run for Angels for that route. How many actually use that route? Just those 2, or are there more?
Yes, just those 2 right now.
Just those 2, and then there's just the 2, the
They're
Sunrise on the Square?
The
and-
ones listed on the page.
So that's all of them that are
Yes.
listed? Okay. Have we thought about approaching any of them in order to help you out? To ask them, would they be willing to change to these other routes that are less intensive?
I probably have some good insight on that. You may remember a few years back where we had a concentration of most of our routes were going south toward the high school. Well, we got a lot of feedback that we were dominating that direction, and it wasn't really fair for them to all go in that direction. So what we did is we developed those routes going south, going north, and going east. And we have kind of, in our office, tried to manage a quota per se to go in each direction so as we don't inundate any one particular neighborhood. So while that makes sense, it would go back to the problem that we previously had.
Okay. But the one we don't use, which is the link, of course,
Yes.
we clearly haven't talked about that because that
right.
section just got opened. So I think there's maybe some opportunities there to talk to them about moving down to the less intensive use for the officers, because you clearly won't have as much impact with the officers nor on people's streets getting in and out of their homes, because that's been the biggest complaint is I can't get out of my house, or I can't park on my street, I can't have something at my house.
Well, I would have to agree with Ms. Jenkins in regarding to exercising more opportunity with the link. There are 3 things that concern me, several, but actually when you start off with your presentation on the top 3 things, from suicide to divorce to life expectancy, those are really key factors when we sit here and determine road usage and demand upon your services. And it seems to me in the evaluation of the per hour, it seems to me to be low. So I would ask you, is the fee, if we were maintain those routes, for example, which I would suggest we seek some alternatives, as the link can move people more towards the link, where it takes less officers to maintain, and that would be kind of the course we'd want to take. But if some do not want to change, then are you underbidding, so to speak, or under the valuation of $35 per hour or whatever per man? Is that, do you need more? That would be my question. And so by charging more, it kind of helps direct other alternatives for people who want to run.
So that, any fee paid would be paid to the city, it's not paid to the.
No, I mean, I get that, but it's paid to the city, but I understand that, but eventually those dollars do end up.
So that fee, the most expensive fee at 3,000, would that cover the cost of our services? No, it would be below what the cost of our
Yeah,
services.
so I think in my opinion, if we're going to do it, then I think it shouldn't be below, but it should be at least the coverage of it, and in addition, that would be my suggestion as we move forward.
Mr. Alexander?
Thank you. Mr. Phillips, it's my understanding that each group has their choice. They're given a choice of what? Is that correct?
What we have done in many of our groups, and there may be some of them here represented tonight, they have a long time history of running certain
Sure.
courses, whether they're certified courses or pre-qualifiers, and Mr. Craver can speak more about it. He runs, I don't. But we try to work with them if they've been on a certain course to stay on that course. We have not gotten to the point of mandating going to the link. So that would be the kind of the question. Some of them really enjoy the 3 courses that we have offered. So I don't know what their feedback would be to say, hey, we're going to require you to go to the link. I know that some of them really, really enjoy the vibrancy of actually bringing and starting in downtown
Right.
and
They
running
do.
through the neighborhoods. So I'm sure there would be some opposition to that, but.
Yeah, but that's why I just said, let's first ask them, hey, because of these situations that we're dealing with, do you mind? You may find that you have some volunteers that are willing to come off of some of these routes to go to the link. Before we start having to mandate anything, let's just ask.
I'm not in favor of mandating these routes, though. I'm not. I mean, give them the choice. And when we do have these races downtown, one of the nice things is after everyone's finished running, a lot of the people spend their money downtown. So, thank you.
Mr.
Well,
And I don't think I don't think we're trying to mandate the routes. We're just saying that if you want to choose this route, it's
Right.
the cost is this. We're not saying you can't use this route or you have to use that route, but if you want to use this particular route, and honestly, let's be blunt about it, I mean, these are all fundraisers for the most part. So if their main concern is how much money they want to raise for their organization, we'll see them move off to the link or a less expensive route, just because it's their choice. And, I've run these things for years, and sometimes I stay downtown and sometimes I don't stay downtown. I mean, there's no attraction really if you're, other than going to restaurants for breakfast. So, I think it's something that we've talked about for a long time. I don't think we need to make a decision on this tonight. I think we've put it out there to the community, to the public at this point. Anything we did on making a decision here couldn't impact the races until 2024.
Right.
And some of those races have already stepped up. The early year races have already stepped up.
Yep.
So even those races are out for 2024. It'd be 2025 because they came in under the old rules. So I would like us to give strong consideration to what they're doing. And like I said, I don't think we need to make a decision tonight. I think we need to take it under advisement, let it settle a little, get comment back from the organizations that use these race routes, and let's make a decision based on that.
Well, in that decision, I would like to see a reevaluation of the fees, of proposed fees. I think that would be more helpful as to the appropriate number to be charged, actually.
And before you even made your first comment, I was doing some quick math up here, and this is just me doing some fast math, so it could be very well be off. But the first two routes looked about right, if you charge $35 an hour on average per number of officers needed. The second two are grossly underestimated. The third one said 2,000. It would be closer to 2,200. The fourth one, though, 1,000, it's almost closer to 1,700. And then that's not even taking into effect the 2 or 3 officers on the link, because there are some places where it potentially could cross the road. And
Yeah, we were also taking into mind that we were trying to, in a certain way, promote going to the less intensive routes with pricing, because that does overall help us. If they all become the $35 to $40 per hour per officer situation, then I think they are going to be somewhat similar. I do know that, I'll give you a quick update and we can move on. We did hold a kickoff meeting with some of our regular promoters. We actually held it in this room a couple of months ago. We talked about it. At that point in time, we did not have a price to throw out them, but at that point in time, they understood that something was coming, and they were kind of surprised we hadn't been charging already. Now, I think some of them may be surprised by some of these numbers, and I think some of them have provided Ms. Shea some feedback. They were a little surprised with the numbers. They were also aware that we were having the meeting tonight. So we have started that feedback process, and we agree with you, Mayor. We weren't expecting a decision tonight, but we've already been trying to get that feedback. And I hope we don't have to wait too long before we bring it back. I don't know, 30 days, 60 days or something, get more feedback and bring it back before this body.
Next night meeting, that'd be
Next
great.
night meeting, okay?
Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
All right, any other comments on this before we move on, with no action? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Chief, we appreciate that very much. Item M then on the second page is a consideration of ordinance to amend Chapter 3 alcohol beverages for the Code of Ordinances to provide for regulation of sales and consumption of alcohol beverages in Wadsworth. Mr. Craver, how are you, sir?
Mayor Brady, I'm Will, members of the council. I'm here before you to ask that you consideration the amended ordinance in your packet, which would provide a mechanism to allow for licensed caterers to provide the food and beverage services. This body unanimously suggested we do so at the December 2022 meeting. Ms. Mosley, who runs our Leisure Services Department, has tried, unfortunately unsuccessfully, twice to secure a sole vendor to hold that position and license for food and beverage concessionaire type services at the Wadsworth Auditorium. Ergo, we're here today. We have met with the city attorney. We believe that this is the right mechanism to provide the food and services through concession, as this body had suggested we do so last December. And I'm prepared to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone?
I have one question on section 330. It's actually the second page. For the purposes of the city's open container provisions permitting open containers of alcohol beverages in the city's central business district, the exterior grounds of the Wadsworth Auditorium shall be considered a part of the city's central business district, as set out in section 325 herein. My original understanding was we wanted to sell alcohol beverages inside,
Right.
but not on the outside, or not allow people to
Bless you.
walk around.
Yeah.
Bless you.
Well, I don't know that this body gave that directive, that specifically. However, the logic behind that, Councilman, was to allow for folks that may have a pre-function or a cocktail hour before an event inside to utilize the recently renovated space adjacent to the new Wadsworth parking lot. That was the logic behind it. Currently now, the sidewalks are eligible within the open container district. And if approved, well, we can go into the Wadsworth, or folks could purchase and consume, buy the drink beer and wine in the Wadsworth with food. That's a suggestion here, but if this body wants to change that, by all means, we can change that.
So the cutoff of the central business district will include, has already included, the sidewalk in front of the Wadsworth?
Yes, sir. It's up,
Okay.
yep.
All right.
So it just would make sense to have the outside available.
That was,
I mean,
that's the
that would be
opinion of
my,
staff. Yes, sir.
my choice. If we're going to do it, then let's open it up.
Okay.
But
I understand
It was for
now
a
that-
pre-event function, if you wanted to have a tented cocktail
Right.
hour before a theatrical event occurring in
Sure.
Wadsworth.
I just wanted to clarify the
Yes, sir.
boundaries, and you've done that, so thank you.
You're welcome.
So I have a quick question, is with the alcohol for the outside area, anybody from anywhere in the district could purchase alcohol anywhere in the district and then go consume it in the parking lot? Or is it just Wadsworth alcohol purchases in the parking lot?
Good question.
I-
I think that
Anywhere on the grounds of the Wadsworth Auditorium shall be
As
considered
I'm
part
reading,
of
I'm
that
just saying,
district.
it's open, yeah, to anybody, anywhere
sir.
could drink, could
That's
purchase
right.
alcohol and drink it there.
Just like, yes,
So it'd
other
be-
public parking lots and other lots in the downtown area currently in that district. No different.
Will they be able to bring it into the Wadsworth?
No, sir.
I would say
Okay.
no.
No, everything as it reads in this would have to
Okay.
be brought by a licensed caterer.
That was
No
my-
brown bag provision.
That was my other question, was could they
Yeah.
bring it from somewhere, another restaurant?
No, sir.
Take it in, like if they want to go to the art gallery and
No,
walk
sir.
around?
No.
Any other questions?
The only other question I have is about the licensee.
Yes,
Is that the same provision as any other?
Yes, ma'am. This already exists. This,
Right. So they'd have to have, you
it'd
know,
be
all
a
the
licensed
requirements.
caterer. So somebody who already has a license to pour by consumption, distilled spirit, or beer and wine only, not distilled spirits. She or he could come to the council and get a quote-unquote special, or come to City Hall, forgive me, and get a special event permit.
So this is not like the convention center where there's a prescribed list that you
Correct,
have to
that's
come
right.
from?
Yeah,
This
no.
is anybody who's a license holder,
Yes.
under that provision with us?
Correct, would come and get a special event permit from our licensing department, would share their license, they're already an existing license holder to pour. They would come and get a special event permit from us for a date certain, and they could then provide it there.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion on the issue?
I make that motion.
Second?
Motion and a second, we approve the ordinance as presented. Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Okay, if you'll put this on our next agenda for a second final reading, I appreciate that. The next item on the agenda, Mr. Craver, I assume you're still up. This is a contract for award on-call professional engineering and consulting services.
Yes, sir. Mayor Brady, members of the council, city staff, in understanding the volume of capital projects, not only funding and delivery of such projects, gathered in a room over time, again and again and again, and realized that there's a very strong need within our organization to have what we're calling an on-call contract with a firm or firms. Essentially, when you boil all this down, is to provide for the timely delivery of these projects. We do have 2 professional engineers on staff, and they're wonderful members of our team. However, most of our engineering staff is charged with, reviewing plans that outside developers are looking to have reviewed and approved. They're not designing. So, as you recall, oftentimes we will come to this body and ask for you to approve the hiring of a firm to support an intersection improvement, a roadway design. I mean, and there's a litany of different services provided by these firms. So what senior staff and others have gotten together and are suggesting that we hire, in this case, 2 firms that are on call. We issue task orders at the time in which we need these services so that we're not going out to the market procuring these services on a case-by-case-by-case-by-case-by-case basis. Again, when you boil it all down, what we hope happens is it provides for a more timely delivery of these capital projects. I've shown in your agenda item on page 50 some of the past, starting in 2021, the volume of work, the amount of capital improvements that come out of this organization. And as this body knows, we've allocated funds to do an advanced amount of roadway work over the next 3 years. We anticipate the continuation of more capital project needs, as we are very proud of making sure that our public infrastructure is strong and sound. That's how we got to this point. What happened was we put a solicitation offering out there and received great response, as you can see in your packet, from a number of firms that are all wonderful and qualified firms. A small group of staff got together, reviewed those firms, shortlisted those firms, and held interviews with 7 of those firms. As the result of those interviews, it became apparent to the staff that we likely needed to hire 2 firms. for these two basic reasons. One firm showed an exceptional ability to provide water services or stormwater services and some other services to our organization, and then another firm showed an exceptional ability to provide those additional services we look for. So we're here today recommending that the city council allow for and engage Integrated Science and Engineering and Columbia Engineering and Services as the city's on-call engineering firms
Any
for a
questions?
3-year term.
Any questions of Mr. Carden?
I just have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just looking at the score sheet and how they ranked number 5 and 7.
Excuse me.
I'm just curious how that came about. You said like 1 and 2. I'm looking at
Excuse
the rankings on the summary sheet.
Yes, sir.
That was the initial ranking. correct?
That's right. There's a 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, could you restate? There may have been some ties in there that.
No, I was just curious. There were a couple ties, but like I was just curious. ISC was ranked number 7. And
Correct,
Columbia as number 5.
correct.
Why 5?
The top 7 were given an opportunity to interview.
Okay.
At that point, we felt that those were the most highly qualified firms, and then each one of those firms got in a room and had a chance to interview, and those 2 firms outperformed their colleagues.
So this is the initial summary sheet?
Correct,
Okay,
yes, sir.
That makes
This is
sense.
for-
Thank
Then
you.
we had face-to-face interviews afterwards.
Excellent. No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, we adopt the contract award consideration for on-call professional engineering and consulting firms as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a consideration of an agreement between the City of Newnan and Coweta County or the Coweta Community Foundation for the purpose of forming a study committee related to homelessness and unsheltered population. This has been before us a couple of times already, or at least one time already, for discussion. Mr. Phillips, you have this tonight. Are there any comments or questions of Mr. Phillips regarding this issue?
I think the main thing is it's a feasibility process. There
That's
is
right.
no predefined outcomes. It's just a process to determine what may be feasible, what may be long-term solutions to get our homeless up on their feet and to actually be citizens that actually serve us, add value to the community. So again, it's a feasibility process, and I simply would recommend that we engage into the agreement.
That's right. The feasibility efforts would conclude mid-year next year and give this body several options. I assume that we could travel down those roads or not. There's nothing etched in stone with us moving forward with this. It is simply to look at the issue, discuss the issue, have experts who know how to handle the issue give us their opinions about the best way to move forward. And like I said, that would come back before this body mid-next year. Don't have a date yet, but the letter says mid-next year. So are there any other questions on this or comments?
No, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to thank the Community Foundation, Pastor Ellis, and the Housing Coalition that has been meeting for a while now to talk about these issues and to chart a path forward for us to meaningfully address this. So thank you for your leadership on addressing this very much so needed issue in our community.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion is second, we approve it. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a contract award consideration for slip lining culverts on East Broad and Timbermill. Mr. Norton, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Mayor, Council. Hope y'all are doing well. What you have before you is, we've got a culvert on East Broad Street as well on Timber Mill that are corrugated metal pipes, and kind of like the situation we had on Union Crossing Boulevard East that deteriorated. So we'd like to enter in a contract with Piedmont Paving to rehabilitate those pipes so we can get some more years of life out of them.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
And just a quick question, Mr. Norton. About how many years does slip lining give us extra life out of these culverts?
The studies out there suggest 40 to 50 more years.
Okay,
Right.
so well
Okay.
worth the money then.
Absolutely.
And a lot cheaper than going in and reconstructing.
Well, and it's less disruption to the traffic, the community, so
All right, that sounds good to me. Thank you.
absolutely.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second, we approve as presented on the slip lining culverts award. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion carried. The next is, thank you, Mr. Norton. The next is a consideration to place city-owned lot at 28 West Gate Park Lane under surplus and to open the lot up for auction.
Good evening,
Moody.
Mr. Mayor.
How are you, sir?
Council, I'm doing great. Glad to be here. So the city received a request from the property owner at 2 Midland Park Court to purchase the city-owned property at 28 Westgate Park Lane. The resident intends to use this lot, if able to purchase it, as an additional portion of their yard and will fence it in. So we are requesting that the city consider placing this lot under surplus and then opening it up for auction, and then in turn, upon the sale, returning the funds or the proceeds from the sale to the Noonan Urban Redevelopment Agency for the purpose of more affordable housing.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I have a comment first, because this was, the history of this property goes back to it being a problem. We purchased this trying to alleviate some problems in the community, because it was a problem house. And we said then we would turn this over to the Urban Redevelopment Authority so that they could use this for affordable housing. Then we ended up tearing the house down, as opposed to turning it over to the Urban Redevelopment Authority. And said, well, you know, then the vacant lot can go to the Urban Redevelopment Authority. And now we're talking about selling it, and we're in the midst of a housing crisis, and we have a lot, and we have a mechanism to add more ownership, affordable housing in our community, and here we are considering selling it. I think that is the wrong direction. When we initially bought this property, it was with the intent to, one, get rid of a problem, but two, we said, look, this will be an opportunity for our organization that we formed in 2008 with the intent of having opportunities to have affordable housing, get this property, and create just such an opportunity. And I think it would be the wrong move to make on top of several moves we've made towards this end to sell it. I think we still have an opportunity to use this property for what we intended to use it for in the very first time we encountered this property, which is to build a house on it, or use one of our organization partners like Habitat for Humanity or our housing authority, who have a record of doing that very well within our community if the Urban Redevelopment Authority can't do it. I think there are too many options here to address affordable housing instead of selling this property and then taking whatever it is and giving it to the Urban Redevelopment Authority and say, hey, you go do something else. Land is the issue. We've got the land. So to sell it right now, I think would be an egregious mistake on our part.
Well,
So
now,
I make a motion to deny the request.
I have a couple questions. Understanding it's important to have housing, et cetera. So if you put this house up for auction, what is the estimated value that you would perceive you would get from it?
If we were to solely base it off of or what's provided by Q Public, it says that the lot value is $88,288.
How much?
How much?
That is the market value that's listed on the Q Public report. Now, as it goes to
That's
access.
right,
Prior to house.
Yes.
Repeat that number again, please. I missed.
That's not.
That's not correct.
No, that's
It
what's
may be
listed as the
what's on
current,
there, but it's not-
that's listed as the current assessed value.
Okay, I want to know what you would get. What is the estimated?
We do not have
Dollar.
an estimate
Well-
at this time.
What would be your estimate? I'm going somewhere with this, so I have to have that answer. Give me a number, man. What would you say would be,
25,000.
all right. Just the land, correct? Now, if you were to take that piece of property, valued at approximately 25,000, you were to build a house on it, what would the cost of a square foot of the house for the square footage allotment on that piece of property cost?
We currently base everything off of the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom house, and we estimate costs being at $275.
275.
Yes.
That's what the
That
city-
clearly is, so does a 275 house fit in that area?
It could.
It could. So what was the average price range of houses in that area?
That I do not know off the top of my head.
Does anybody want,
I think 275 is a stretch,
stretch as in like
too high.
too high? So you would build it, what would you build it for? What would be your all-in number to build?
That's what we estimate at 275 for
That's
the
what this-
all-in build price.
that's
So
what
to me, that doesn't, I don't want to disagree, but I mean, in a housing, that doesn't fall into, I don't think, the projected affordable housing that you're foreseeing
And that
in a
is
Habitat for Humanity. What's a Habitat for Humanity house coming in?
Actually, we had a meeting with them yesterday, and they said that they have been going between 175 and 190.
Is that affordable in that
Yes,
area?
it is, because it's 30 to 60% of the area, actually 80% of the area median income.
So with whom did you have a meeting?
Just about a different issue, but with the Habitat CEO here.
So wouldn't it be, I totally get where you're coming from, but it seems to me, if we're attempting to do certain things, then you're really kind of, let's just pull Habitat for Humanity off the table, for example, and NURA being part of that, you're really high when it comes to that particular lot. So it seems to me the reasonable thing to do would be to sell the lot, take the money, and put it in a place that would be beneficial. And that would be, so I would make a motion to approve.
Well,
wait a minute.
I've got a motion on the floor to deny, but I've never got a second. All right, that motion is dead for lack of a second. Now, before I entertain a motion to approve, has NURA been contacted about this lot?
No, I believe the contact came directly through the city manager's office.
That's correct.
Yes.
But I guess to clear up what Ms. Jenkins is trying to put forward here, is that I'd like to know a couple of things from NURA. Number one, are they ready to build on this lot? And, I mean, literally ready to go out, and do they have a house plan that they could build on this lot?
No.
You're our personal.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, we
okay.
we currently do not have any plans
Do
for
you
that
have-
lot.
Do you have funding to build on the lot?
Not as far as I'm aware. Tracy and I have been looking into potentially seeing if the NSP 1 dollars can expand into that boundary, but we're not aware of that at this moment.
Okay. So, given your knowledge of NURA and what their plan is at this point and their projects that they've got on their books, when would you anticipate being able to build on this lot if council gave you directive to put it in the queue?
I would say probably within 5 to 7 years, given the capacity that we're going to have with the Warnock funds.
Okay.
That's going to significantly slow down the process of building houses as we're going to be focused in another primary area.
Right, okay. Now, I mean, I think it's important that we understand if we're trying to build a house there, that we either can or we can't in an appropriate time frame. And it just doesn't sound like to me we are. This neighbor is tired of seeing this lot and the shape that it's in, and either we go over there on a weekly or bi-weekly basis and maintain the lot and cut it and keep it up to the standards she wants to have it in her backyard, or we sell it and let her do that. So,
I also would like to point out that that is NURA. There are other organizations that fit the criteria, as I mentioned, the Housing Authority and the Habitat for Humanity affiliate that covers Noonan Coweta, that are actually looking for land right now because they are going to run out after they finish with the ARPA funds that we have, and have made it very clear that they're trying to acquire land so that they can build once they've finished with their ARPA fund in their neighborhood. So I think that to limit that to just the Urban Redevelopment Authority is to say that's the only game in town that can build affordable housing.
I didn't say that.
But that's what the information that you've gotten is only from the city,
No.
not from the other organizations.
you brought up NURA. I never mentioned any other
I'm ju-
any other options, and I didn't say there weren't any other options.
The questions
If the
you
council
asked-
would like to do that, place this item on our agenda for our next night meeting next month. And in the meantime, have Mr. Moody go to the Habitat and go to the Newnan Housing Authority and see if they are interested in this lot to build the house within the time frame of the next 12 months. I'd like to have that answer.
I would, but I also would like to, I mean, I want clarity, they purchased the lot, correct?
Yes.
We're not giving it to them.
No, to purchase the lot, to
Right.
build the house. That's what we're after.
And the other, Mayor, the other addition, I'd like to know what they feel the true cost, what it would cost them, what size house, and what the cost would be.
For sure, they've
Let's
got to
be
make those,
realistic about it.
they've got to make those determinations.
Yes, sir.
That'd be part of deciding on whether or not the lot was appropriate for their mission.
Correct.
So I would be open for a delay in our decision, yeah,
Is that a motion?
yes.
Second.
Motion and a second, we delay this, or put this item on our agenda for our second meeting in August, whatever date that is. Thank you, Mr. Booth.
I have a quick question, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
before we vote on that.
Let me call the question on that. Or is that a discussion?
No, I have a quick question.
Okay.
The neighbor that would like to purchase this, the intention is to fence it and just make it part of the yard, not to develop it or sell a house of their own.
Yeah,
Correct, our understanding.
that's correct. She had no intention to desire to build. She
Just wanted a bigger yard.
Expand her backyard. That's correct.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Booth. Appreciate it. Okay, under unfinished business, 33 Ray Street, owner update and request for extension.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. This property was before you back in January. They were granted a 180-day extension, and that extension is, or that deadline is expiring this month. Unfortunately, there's not as much work as we were hoping to see. I don't think the owners who bought this property were out of Texas realized the amount of work and damage that was on this house. They have rebuilt the foundation. They've rebuilt the floor structure, and that part is done. But it has been sitting that way for now for probably 3 or 4 weeks. The owner, I talked to him last week. He's wanting a 90-day extension. He believes that the work, now that the foundation work is done, can start moving quickly. And so he's asking for a 90-day extension.
Is he going to be easy to get a schedule from over the next 90 days?
I can certainly try.
I think we've seen us request that before.
Yes, sir.
If we give an extension, we want
Yes.
a schedule so that at the end of the 90 days, we can tell, we've got benchmarks on whether or not they have done what they said they wanted to do and move
Yes,
forward.
and I can get that. I'm not real confident on this one, but I can certainly contact him and get him to send that, or ask him to, and well, I think we'll know in 90 days kind of the direction this is going. So,
You're saying they're out of Texas?
yeah, out of Houston.
Okay, so is there anybody here locally that you deal with, or anybody here representing them?
There's a contractor, but in talking with a local contractor, but in talking with the owner, there's been some type of dispute over pay, and now that's kind of slowed things down. So that's another reason I'm not super confident about this.
So, well, when you use the word, you're not super confident, doesn't put a whole lot of confidence in me to suggest even a 90-day from that perspective.
Absolutely not. I would prefer 30 days with Mr. Murray coming back to us again. I'm loading up our next agenda and our second agenda in August, but
And if I could add on to that, clean up the rubbish. I mean, that's a severe eyesore with the rubbish, and it's a sanitary.
Yes, he had it cleaned up. When they bought the property late last year, they cleaned it up. All the rubbish was gone, but in the process of the construction work that was done, they pulled a lot of that rotten lumber and all out, and it's been sitting on the property, so I can't ask him to remove that.
Can I ask a question? Do we have a mechanism to where, you know what, if can we go in and clean it up and then bill or lien? I'm asking out of,
Yeah.
yes.
but we never get that money back until the property's sold. So
Well, you understand that, but
let's don't,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to
just
make a motion, please,
okay, thank you.
that this be a 30-day extension.
All right.
Second.
30-day extension then granted on 33 Ray Street. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Like sign, opposed, motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Burrow, we appreciate it. This is, next item is a recommendation regarding the sale of city-owned properties located at 66 First Avenue and 10 Buchanan Street. Mr. Phillips.
All right, Mayor, Council, here we go. I think this is the third time we've discussed these properties.
Yes, it is.
Coming back with some findings and a recommendation, and I think we'll start with the standpipe lot or the water tank lot, I think is what we commonly refer to it. I think there's no doubt, based upon the evaluation, there's no road frontage, there's no access. It is certainly a non-buildable lot, and as I've explained to this body before, when a lot is determined to be non-buildable, we can certainly offer it for sale to the adjoining property owners, and it's our opinion in this particular case that we got 3 adjoining property owners that would be eligible to make bids on that particular. I know there's been some requests to do it at the courthouse steps. I probably refer to Mr. Sears with some recommendations on how that process may look when only 3 property owners would be eligible. I don't think it'd be appropriate to do it at the courthouse step, but Mr. Sears may have some recommendation on how we can. Just a sealed bid. Just a sealed bid would be your particular recommendation. But it certainly is, that particular lot is certainly unbuildable. Where it gets a little bit more complicated is the lot on First Avenue, 66 First Avenue. As you see there, you see we had a survey, spent some money to have it surveyed. There are a host of driveways, driveway easements, utility easements on the lot. I did have our planning and zoning department. Of course, that is located in an RUI zoning category. So your setbacks are determined based upon your block averages. So we went through the exercise to determine the setbacks, applied those setbacks on that particular lot to determine if it is a buildable lot. Our answer is that yes, it is a buildable lot. Is it an easy lot to build on? No. Would there be some cost involved in getting it buildable? Yes. There's utilities that have to be vacated, relocated. There may even be some desires for some variances. But inside the setbacks, with the utility lines relocated, we have a building area that is approximately 29 feet wide by 80 feet long. So certainly it is in our opinion, while it may not be an easy to build lot, there's money involved and time involved in getting it buildable. We do believe that it is a buildable lot. And as you heard again, as I said, when it is a buildable lot, it must be offered. If you decide to go forward, it must be offered at a public bidding opportunity, either sealed bids or at a courthouse steps. On both of the lots, you'll see in the packet, I've recommended the starting minimum bid for the standpipe or the water tank lot at $2,500 and for 66th Avenue at $10,000. You may say, well, why not higher on 66? Well, again, it's going to take some time, money, and effort to actually get it buildable. If it was a lot that had no utilities on it in downtown Newnan, we're certainly looking at 10 times that cost. Anyway, that'd be my particular.
Why not allow 10 Buchanan to be a public auction? Is it possible to allow it to be a public auction?
The tank lot.
No.
Yeah, the standpipe. It's not built.
It's a tank lot.
It's not buildable, and it would only be offered to the adjoining property owners. For example, you and I, our properties don't adjoin, and we couldn't bid on the property.
Right. But how many adjoining property owners? 3. So why not allow them to bid publicly?
Well, a sealed bid.
The sealed.
Right, but the other one.
You're saying
we're
an
gonna-
auction
An
format?
auction. Why not, is there any reason why we can't let them do, instead of a sealed bid, just an auction?
If that's what you desire.
I mean, that's,
What would be the point?
Why? Yeah.
well,
The city gets
because,
the best price for it.
because if someone really wants it, they might bid higher and they can get into a bidding war with it. That's all I'm looking for.
Well,
And then
you're
whoever
looking,
bids the highest,
somebody's not gonna, I mean, I think a fair market price when you're setting, I think you've done your evaluation at $2,500 is probably pretty close. So my thing is, and I understand where you're coming from, trying to get squeeze a penny perhaps, but
It's not so much squeeze a penny, but it's just allow someone to determine.
But you have
When they're
three,
bidding
you have
against
three
someone
people
else.
who are interested, so that in and of itself with a sealed bid is a form of basically a silent auction, correct? Yeah. So to me, it's semantics and I don't even know what the purpose would be, so.
Why do one way and one the other? It's not semantics.
But they're not the same either.
I just think,
I mean, you can't treat both lots the same.
Yeah, they're not the same.
One's
Okay.
buildable, one's not.
So it would be important though that we make sure that 66 First Avenue is bid, auctioned, closed, so they would have, the new owners would potentially have the opportunity then to bid on that. So it's kind of a one but then two process.
Mr. Sears.
Yeah, we're talking kind of two different things. We're talking about what you're required to do under the statute and what you can do under the statute. So because the lot has been determined not to be buildable, it becomes a remnant, therefore you can accept sealed bids for that particular lot. You can also accept sealed bids for the other lot. You don't have to auction it off on the courthouse steps.
I understand.
So you do have that. The difference here is getting to what you say, what council's view on it is that the lot, tank lot is being limited to those people who are around it.
Right.
Whereas the other lot, even though they would have to deal with the adjoining property owner and some other issues on that lot, there may be somebody out there who's willing to take that chance other than the immediate property. So that was the thought process on the public auction on it. You can, if you want to, just do it all by sealed bids, just like you do when you're bidding on your industrial work, if that's what you choose to do.
Or I just want to make sure the council understands the other option is to do nothing at all.
That's always, to do nothing is always an option.
I don't think we're at the point we want to do nothing, right?
Well, there's actually been some people that have reached out and said, don't sell it. Some of the
Well,
neighbors around.
oh, so somebody's reached out and says, don't sell it, and and why?
And because I've seen some hits, I'm sure it's more than one now, because I got an email.
So they don't want to, you don't want to sell it because you want to buy it?
Is there an opportunity?
Well, that's what we're trying to decide, correct? As to it be a public, a closed bid, and that would.
I'll take comment on this.
Okay.
You'll need to come up
Yes.
and state your name for the record, please.
Do we need a time limit on everything?
Yes. I mean, I don't know how much time you think you need, but we're not, yeah, okay. We're
Okay.
good.
My name is Debbie Vines, and I own the lot that's 68. It is beside 66, and 10 Buchanan is behind mine.
Right.
So we've talked about this a lot. I so appreciate Mr. Mayor and council members and city manager and attorney, all the discussions we've had on this, okay? What my preference would be is that nothing's done on it, status quo would stay. I have maintained those lots for the 13 years I've lived there. The reason for that is that it is 66 is a very small lot. And to your point, you look at it this way and that, it can be buildable, okay? My goal is to keep the spirit of the neighborhood as it is. Like you talk to the races, people like going through the old neighborhoods. That's a beautiful street, First Avenue. And we would like to maintain that. My concern is the ability, if the lot is sold to someone at a general bid, to ensure that we maintain the look of the neighborhood. And that's where my concern comes into it. And I understand that the council has to do what it does. But that lot, to my knowledge, and Councilman Shell isn't here is that it's never been built on,
Sure, no.
Okay.
there's no- yeah.
never been built on. So that's what I would request. Okay.
Thank you. You, sir, you had a comment? If you'll state your name for the record, too, please. Thank you.
Mayor, Council. My name is Quentin Skinner. I'm the owner at 12 Buchanan, so I'm neighbors with Debbie. And I had the dubious pleasure of buying a property where there were some interesting property attributes around it. My property also had the alleyway that was the primary access point to my rear property for many years. The tornado changed that. Destroyed our garage in the process. And as part of that, we made decisions in our backyard's reconstruction, including the building of our garage. We moved access to our rear property to the back fence. And Miss Debbie's been very nice in letting us have access to that. So the only way to get any landscape equipment, or if my wife gets her wish of building a pool, at some time, it would be through that access based on the decisions we made, not knowing exactly who owned the property at the time, and it's always been sort of a vacant property. So if you designate that as buildable and someone comes in and builds a house there, then obviously I lose any access to that. I would make the request that if you do decide to sell it and move forward, that you allow the direct property owners, as you're doing in the other instance, to be the ones that bid on it, so that if we need to, we can protect access to my rear property in that manner.
We appreciate those comments. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. You'll state your name for the record, please.
I'm Tommy Sweet, and I've built on many lots smaller than that. And if that's going to be made available, I, for one, would be interested in that. And I have a vested interest in this neighborhood, too. I build the Noonan Views townhomes, so I'm just sharing that as I've worked with many homeowners and would be willing to work with those adjacent, too.
Thank you. Yes, sir. If you'll state your name for the record.
My name's Jack McBride. I live at 23 Buchanan Street. What happens to this property, it only peripherally affects me. What it has affected is our neighborhood. Nothing is more contentious than something like this, and it's caused a calm, quiet downtown neighborhood some major discomfort. But I would like to remind the people sitting up here that when you go to decide how to rid yourself of this property and the problem, that the neighbors have maintained this property. I've lived there 12 years, and I didn't see any city employees on that property till well after the tornado. And that was strictly Noonan Utilities moving a water line from it. So I think that don't forget who lives next door to this property. They should be given first consideration. Thank you.
We appreciate that. Okay. Council?
I got a question then.
Sure.
And help me if we've gone through this before, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, it's a buildable lot. Clearly, that's causing a lot of consternation here, and I can see why, especially with the outline of one of the houses so very close to the property line, along with some encroachment on the property already by a driveway that goes across it. Is it an option for us, outside of just doing nothing and keeping it and letting what has happened continue to happen? Is it an opportunity to do very much so what we've done with the other, what you're proposing with the other property, which is to just allow the property owners to extend their backyards and sell it to those property owners to extend their backyards?
Wouldn't the
Is
lot
that an
have to
option?
be divided?
Yeah, it had to be divided up, and people could spend their back. Is that doable? Is that allowable?
And would it be?
Because that's what it sounds like there.
Buildable.
Some of them are asking us
you'd have
about
to,
Once it's been determined to be buildable, it's.
It would be allowable, but I guess the issue is, they would all have to agree, I think. I think before you could get into doing that, they would all have to agree. And that's normally what we get into. There's an agreement between the property owners to do exactly what you're talking about. Now, part, and maybe this goes without saying, the issue is the city granted the property owner, which is Ms. Vines, an easement to construct the driveway. Now, that was granted to Mitch Powell when he owned the lot. As a result of that, a utility easement for the electric line was granted at the same time. So any of those back property owners, if they extended, they would have Ms. Vine's utility line in their backyard. The line extends all the way to the tank lot. I'm assuming that part of it. I do not know if, is it 10 or 12? I don't know. The gentleman that just spoke in 10.
No, he's in 12.
I don't know where their utilities come from. If they're, do your utilities
From the street
come
or
off
My garage was hooked up to.
Yeah, okay, so they all have easements there. This is part of the reason why the lot still has value. This is part of the reason why you've got a lot in that particular neighborhood with what is the recommended minimum bid price, you see, is because the lot is buildable, but you got a lot of hurdles to go over before it can. The problem is the city's up against a little conundrum that if the city wants to dispose of the lot, it's got to get a fair price for it. And staff is determined that is $10,000 and the best way to do, well, they had suggested auctioning it, which would open the door to, anybody, because you still have to advertise. So whether you do it by auction on the courthouse steps, or you do it by sealed bids for either lot, that's up to council to make that decision.
Okay.
Okay, can I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Jenny Lewis, and I wasn't going to take up your time, but we had a new suggestion come up, and I think it's something that really should be considered as far as just extending. I'm at 14 Buchanan, and if my bridge is the one that's on there that adjoins with Debbie, and I know that we could work together, the 4 properties, Debbie Vines, the kids, myself, and the Skinners. We've been through a tornado together, and our huge oaks fell on top of each other, and our boundaries were shaken to the core. And we worked together through that with the community's help, and it has made a tremendous difference in our bonds and the way that we work together. So there's no doubt in my mind that we could work together to make that happen if it was in your way of thinking to look at that. And I appreciate your time.
Okay. I'll take one last public comment. Do you, if you'll state your name and where you live in
Yes,
regard
sir.
to the lot.
My name is Joshua Cole, and my wife and I, we own 10 Buchanan Street, the house just in front of the standpipe lot. And I was just going to make a reference of the difference between the two lots. With 10 Buchanan, it would more or less be impossible to subdivide it because it's got a very large concrete structure on it. So for that land to be subdivided, I mean, that concrete would have to be excavated. And then it's just the comment that, currently these lots are not doing anything for the citizens of Newnan. And just a recommendation to proceed with the sale so that the city and residents can benefit from the sale price, but also start earning tax revenue on the properties. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
There's one more person had their hand up back there. I don't know if you
Well,
wanna-
Yes, sir.
My name's William Darnell. I am Debbie's son-in-law. And I cannot let that last statement stand because this gentleman has a vested interest in causing her grief. Let me just say,
Let me-
okay, I'll take
Sir,
that back. Let me strike
sir,
that.
Let me
please,
stop
let me-
you right there. If you'll take a seat, I appreciate it very much.
Can I
Sir,
just?
this is not going to get personal on
I
any level.
apologize for I
Sir,
apologize. I
if you'll
wasn't
just
gonna
take a
say-
seat, I
Yes,
would
sir.
appreciate it
I'm
very
sorry.
much. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just don't allow that in this agenda. We just don't do that here. Okay.
So I think it would be safe to say we're seeing some obstacles that we would run into if we start dividing this. So I'm going to make a motion and take for the recommendation that staff has, that we just proceed with the auction and move forward.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. Everybody understand what that means? I'm not sure which lot the motion pertains to.
It's for both.
With
They recommend, okay, for 10 Buchanan and for, my glasses on here, 66 First. Or do you need two separate motions?
All right, I have a motion, a second. I have a question for Mr. Sears. On the standpipe lot, when there are only the three owners who could bid on that, is that correct?
I would condition it to only those owners that are adjoining it and have access to it. So that would include, I think we've determined 3 people.
Correct.
To the standpipe lot.
That's 10 Buchanan.
Pardon?
That's 10 Buchanan Street.
10
One of them,
Yeah.
one of 3. Yes.
So just to be clear, you're saying that they would be the only ones who could bid on it?
On the small lot.
On the small lot?
Because it's not a buildable lot.
Right, on Buchanan. Okay. You need a motion for that?
If that clarifies the motion you made, if staff is clear on what the motion is.
Yes, all right.
Okay.
Then I'll make that motion.
Is that just for
Per
that
Brad.
lot?
Just for that lot.
Okay. So
which
we're
lot are we
taking them
talking?
one at a time.
All right, now on lot,
I've got a motion. Do I have a second on the
Second.
standpipe lot?
Second.
Mo-
question, if you don't mind.
I have a motion and a second. Question?
The question is to be a sealed bid or an auction?
Sealed is what staff recommended.
Well, that's not what the motion is.
sealed bid,
Sealed bid.
yes.
Sealed bid, standpipe lot. I have a second. Any other questions or comments on that?
I think it would just be appropriate that sale happens after the buildable lot is disposed of first, so that whoever owns the buildable lot would also have an opportunity to bid on that lot. So just put it in order, buildable lot first,
Mr. Sears, does the
standpipe.
buildable lot right now is that one of the three parties that has rights to the standpipe lot? You said there are three people who have rights to the standpipe lot if we decide to.
Correct.
Is the buildable lot one of those three people?
No.
Well, then a new owner of the buildable lot would not be.
The buildable lot is the city's lot.
No, but,
And the city won't be bidding on its own lot, I don't know.
no, but if somebody buys that,
You know, I understand what you're saying. If one of the affected people did not get the lot, then they may want to bid on the standpipe lot at a later date.
or the new owner of the First Avenue lot, the buildable lot, would then have an opportunity to bid on the standpipe lot. Because right now, if we sold the non-buildable lot right now, whoever in the future purchases the buildable lot won't have an opportunity because
What-
they are adjacent to that non-buildable lot.
I don't get that.
He's asking you if that's a correct
I
statement.
think it's whatever council, I guess whatever council, but does it matter? I mean.
That's the
so
point.
that-
You may want to take a motion on that lot first.
Sequencing, I think is what you're
Yeah,
talking
sequenced, yeah.
I understand what you're saying. You're like a new owner is gonna have as much right to this as everybody else if you were
If
doing
it
all of the
happened.
people. I mean, so I get it. I guess my question now, because, I mean, it seems that council is leaning towards selling the large buildable lot.
No, I wouldn't say that.
You
We
wouldn't say
hadn't
that?
voted yet.
Okay, all right,
Okay, so don't,
all right, okay.
No, but I would
So
say,
we're talking about the standpipe right now, not the other one.
So-
That's the motion I
That's
have.
right.
I would hope that if.
I've got a motion, I won't take any more
Can we,
comments or discussion.
Well, I would hope that if we do, if we do sell this, that those four owners are in good agreement, they would form a partnership or consortium or something like that, buy the lot, and then you could
That's
subdivide it
exactly
yourself.
where I was
You do
going.
the work,
That-
you buy
that right
it, you do the
there.
work, and make it extended backyards.
That right there.
Then can we do it with the open auction and not the closed?
Okay. May I suggest?
Yes, please.
May I try to suggest?
Yes, let's move
I don't have a
forward.
motion and a second on the floor. It only pertains to the standpipe lot, and we'll have a vote on that in a second. I like the idea of the owners being able to come together and subdivide in some shape, form, or fashion that makes logical sense, the larger buildable lot. In order to do that, I think there needs to be an opportunity for those people, there are three of them, correct? Or four? Four of them, to sit down in a room together with a representative from the city and Mr. Sears to see if you can work out the subdivision of that lot. And it would be a situation where you would be required to pay for the survey. City would not pay for a new survey that would subdivide the lot. Then at that point, the city could sell off to the individuals the lots that are identified by the new survey. And the meets and bounds description that would be recorded in the courthouse, that would be the new owners of all four. Mr. Sears, are you
I'm
there?
looking around because the actual owner of the lot on the corner that you may be calling forward, are you talking about the big lot?
Yeah.
The subdivide? That person is not present.
No, she is not present tonight.
So I don't know what interest.
That's the reason I want everybody in the room,
Gotcha.
to talk through it, to come back to this body and say, we've reached a resolution, or forget about it. We can't reach a resolution. So that we stop putting words in their mouths about what they may or may not do, because we're not them. We're not here to make those, we're trying to force this on somebody, and that's not gonna work out.
I withdraw my second.
I'll stop talking. Withdraw your. I'll withdraw. Okay, so, again, give us a month. Go to is it okay to put this on our agenda, second agenda in August?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion a second? All right, all those in favor of that, and during that time period, we sit down, expect to be contacted, and we'll try to work through it in a reasonable manner.
So, one point of clarification for staff. That is only a meeting for the large buildable lot.
Yes.
And the three property owners on Buchanan and Ms. Vines on First Avenue. Correct. We're not talking about a meeting to discuss the standpipe lot.
No.
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
No. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, any other question, any other clarification?
The only, if you four can't get along with it, figure it out, then I guess we're gonna go back to where we were, and then Mr. Sweet could bid on it and potentially build something there.
I wasn't gonna be that blunt.
Let's call it like it
Okay,
is.
all right,
That
so
works.
I have motion
Down there.
second, any other discussion or comment?
Good point.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, motion carried. We've made a decision, so,
There's just something that wasn't factual. Our property actually touches 66 First Avenue, so there would be 5 owners.
you'll be invited to the meeting.
He has a corner.
You'll be invited to the meeting.
With the claiming of the alleyway, we actually have about.
Okay, you'll be
20.
included in the discussion. Okay, and can discuss the details at that time. That would be great. Okay, next item on the agenda is a continuation of a discussion to hold work sessions for rezoning and annexation cases. You have this before you. We've had this discussion a couple of times, and what we did to allow you to remember where we were the last time we met. We asked staff to come up with the chart that is in our agenda and on the board. Thank you. So we've got, it's pretty straightforward at this point. These are the application dates for each of the months. This is it comes to council for information only. The second column, the third column is a planning commission public hearing date, and then the date on which, if there was in fact a meeting in that planning commission meeting that was an annexation or rezoning, the council work session date would be on those dates that you see in the 1, 2, 3, 4th column. Does this suit what everybody wants to do?
It does me.
Looks good to me.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there a discussion? Because this is going much easier than I thought it would.
No discussion. I think we've discussed it.
Tracy did a good job.
Motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you. We don't have anything under visitors tonight, but we do have a reason for a legal executive session, so I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Correcto to call us into that with a motion. Yes, Mr. Sears.
I've been informed by the clerk that we opened the public hearing on the work plan.
Thank you.
Well, someone told me there was no action needed on that, so
It was an advertised public hearing.
I did open it. At this point in time, I hereby close it. Thank you. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
All right, are we ready? All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that we now enter into closed session as allowed by OCGA, Section 50, TAC 14, TAC 4, and pursuant to advice by the city attorney for the purpose of discussing legal, and that we in open session adopt a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor or presiding officer to execute an affidavit in compliance with OCGA Section 50, TAC 14, TAC 4, and that this body ratify the actions of the council taken in closed session and confirm that the subject matters of the closed sessions were within exceptions permitted by the open meetings law.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, we go into executive session for a legal item. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here. We're in